The Catholic marriage vows are, I, so-and-so, take so-and-so to be my wife, husband. I promise to be true to you in good times and in bad, in sickness and health. I will love and honor you all the days of my life. Honor meaning respect. Has the modern woman's movement taken away the respect portion of the vow? Men are not verbal. I would say no. And the reason that I say that is this. Social political movements are just that, social political movements. They're fads or trends that come in, they do their thing, and then sometimes they leave, sometimes they stick around, and then they get resurrected every so often. Kind of like fashion sense. Think about it. The clothes from the 70s are somehow making a comeback. I don't know why, but they are. You see that same thing with music. The styles from the 80s seem to be coming back too. These kinds of things. But just because the world is changing around us, the situation in the political spectrum of the world or the way in which the world responds to things changes, doesn't mean that the church changes, and it doesn't mean that the meanings of vows and things change as well. And while it's true that in practice people may be not respecting one another, or people may not be treating one another the way that they should be, when we do the marriage preparation, and I'm doing that with several people now actually in the parish, we talk about the meaning of the vows. We talk about what the words mean and what they imply, and more than just the letter of the words, the spirit of the words too. We see this also with the other sacraments. When I talk to families for even baptism, I'm very clear with them. Do you understand what you're promising before God? Are you sure you're going to make that promise, or are you somehow not entirely sure? Like when it comes to baptism, when we go to the font, you are promising that you are going to raise the child that's being baptized in the faith. If you have no interest in raising them in the faith, you have no interest in bringing them to church or doing any of those things, why do you want them baptized? Because it's what grandma wants? Because that's what grandpa says has to be done? What difference does it make if the child is baptized or not if you're not going to raise them in the faith? Because the parents are making a promise before God. I'm going to raise this child in the faith, but I have no intention of doing so. I'm lying before God and everybody who's there, and God will judge them on that, by the way. They made a promise that they're not keeping, knowing that if they don't keep it, God will judge them for it. When it comes to marriage, the same thing. If we're not sincere in the vows that we say, if we don't mean what the church says, God will judge us on that. Did I approach this in a way that was not in accord with what His will was for that sacrament? And if it was, I'll give you an example. Something I heard just Sunday. What was that, yesterday? My goodness. Ooh, I'm getting old. As the little kids were leaving the church school, as they call it here, before the 10:45 Mass, I was standing in the hallway talking with some people. And as the kids were coming out of their classroom, it was the last day of the church school for this academic year. They're not going to have any more until, the next time. And one of the little kids, as they were running out the door, made a comment to their teacher. And I was standing right there. The comment was, I only have one more year that I have to do this, and I'm good until I'm in high school. Because they were preparing the next year for their first communion. Now think about what that means. I'm going to go to church school so that I can receive the sacraments, but then I'm not going to come to church school or to church until I'm ready for confirmation. And then once they're confirmed, what's the likelihood that they're going to come back to church before they're getting married or buried, whichever comes first? Basically the same thing, right? The old life is over, the new life begins, right? Basically the same. But think about what that means. If the child, who's only, 7 years old or so, says, I only have to do this one more year and then I don't have to do it again, it being going to church, until I'm ready for high school. What are we doing when it comes to parents teaching their children? It doesn't matter if you go to church or not. It doesn't matter if you have faith, as long as you get the sacraments that you're not actually going to participate in anyway. What's the point of having First Communion if you're not going to go back to church again until you're a high school student? Why get it at all? Honestly. But think about it. We have children in our church school, I guess we'll call it, where the parents drop the child off to go to Mass because the children have to sign a thing that they were at Mass. The parents aren't attending, and the kid's only there because they have to sign something that said they were there. Why prepare them for the sacrament if you don't want them to actually go? Rhetorical question.